Dennis L. Waters here, Dr. Dennis L. Waters. I am presenting to you an item, and in the background you're hearing the music of the very item that I'm speaking to you about. The presentation is entitled Unlocking the Power of Your Alpha Mind to Live Your Beautiful, Handsome, Authentic Life. And I'm speaking about the isochronic frequencies and isochronic music. And so I'll be speaking about that in just a moment. For now, I'm introducing to you a little about what this 79-page document that I'm working with, how it can be yours, and what it means to be yours. I'm speaking to you about this frequency, about what is called Brainwave Entrainment, and why it's important for you to have this particular document and these particular sounds so that they work for you. I want to mention first of all that I was first introduced to this through an individual who has a program that is called Trip Neural, and this is the music that he produces. The individual, the Alpha Mind System is what it's called. The music itself is Trip Neural music, and the person who has brought this forth for me, his name is spelled N-I-R-A-J. The last name is N-A-I-K. And then he's known by his friends as Nij. And that's spelled N-I-J. I may be pronouncing it incorrectly. But I'm using his book, his material, that I was able to purchase and then have been using. And I'll talk about that a little bit later as to my particular experience with the material. The item that I want to bring before you is out of this particular book that I have entitled now, Unlocking the Power of Your Alpha Mind to Live Your Beautiful, Handsome, Authentic Life. We are doing a presentation that works with living your self-aware, beautiful, authentic life. The inner journey, taking the inner journey of self-awareness to become your beautiful, handsome, authentic self. And so we're tying this music into that presentation. And so let's talk about this for a moment so that you understand exactly what it is and exactly what we're doing. In this booklet, it says the word alpha comes from the Latin word for a, the Greek word for one, and in English, it is synonymous with the word first and beginning. Alpha has been used to represent many things, including a type of brain wave frequency that corresponds to a special, relaxed mental state where incredible things are possible. This mental state has been associated with 1, increased well-being, 2, heightened creativity, 3, inspiration, and 4, peak performance. Increasingly, alpha mind states are found more frequently in people who meditate regularly, professional athletes, artists, musicians, and entrepreneurs. Alpha brain waves are associated with your highest state of mind, and we have collectively created a program that will allow you to reach peak alpha brain wave states at will. Your mind is the first and most important thing to master if you wish to take control of your life and attract all things you really want. Before you can fully understand how the Alpha Mind system can benefit you, it is worthwhile grasping the fundamentals of how both your brain and mind really work. And so that's what we're talking about here. How does your brain and your mind, two different entities, how they work? So that's what we're looking at, and in particular, alpha mind frequencies, alpha mind system. And the frequency, the label of it is the alpha wavelength. An illustration is given. The illustration is about a car, and they ask the question, are you a good driver? And it speaks of the aspect that your car needs certain things to drive or to keep it in a condition by which you are able to drive. And it says, if you knew how to correctly maintain your car by filling it with the best fuel, checking the oil and water regularly, and taking it to get service when it's due, it probably would not break down as much, saving you a lot of pain and a lot of money. And if you've had a car that has ever broken down, then you know exactly what is being talked about there. And so you want to maintain that car, that vehicle, well. The same thing is true in regard to the mind and the body. They're the same thing as your car. They need regular maintenance and the correct fuel to ensure a safe journey for your soul. Have you ever put the wrong fuel into your car? Hopefully you have not. This individual says he once did it, and he put in diesel fuel into a car that was driven with gasoline, regular gasoline. The car chugged along, bellowing out lots of smoke, and eventually stopped. And then you know what happens with that. It's got to be fixed and everything. It says, did you know, he says, that most of us put the wrong fuel into our minds and bodies every single day? And listen what he says in regard to the wrong fuel. Many of us live factory fuel lives, eating a diet mainly of processed factory-based foods filled with artificial additives, processed fats, and unnatural sugar. Most people also consume frenzied, flavored drinks, excess alcohol, and contaminated drinking water instead of pure fresh water. So you think about that and what is being said there in the comparison with if you put certain kind of fuel into your car, it will damage your car. And now we're talking about your body as a vehicle to carry your spirit, to carry your soul. So it speaks of putting the wrong kind of fuel, and it says this is completely the wrong type of fuel for our bodies. Our minds also require proper fuel. Our minds are fueled by external information, food, and even exercise. This type of information we feed our minds activates our thoughts. The wrong source of fuel can create thoughts that make us chug along rather than cruise through life. Think about that and what it's saying. Breaking down is something I have experienced, he says, not just with my car, but also my own physical health. And then he goes through this process where he talks about a life crisis that he had. But I won't use his particular item. I'll use my own because I've had the time in my life where my body and even my mind have broken down. I have had it where I have actually found myself on the floor, where I had to ask myself, how did I get on the floor? And I recognized that I had been drinking certain kind of what they call energy drinks in order to keep myself going, and that was not the kind of food or fuel that I should have been putting in my body at that time. I was trying to push it, and not fueling it correctly. And I've had other times when I've done various things to the body. And I know others have done the same thing as well. And so what about you? And so he mentions here that the techniques and the tools that he is talking about are meant to help you to avoid having that type of thing happen again. And that's also the reason why I'm speaking of those things, because there are consequences that come, and the reason why I'm speaking of these things. Then the topic says, understanding your mind. What would be the first thing you would think of if I asked you, where is your mind located? Where's your mind? And I often ask individuals, if you're in a room with individuals, where does one mind begin and the other mind end? Or the mind for one person end, the other person begins? Almost everyone points to his or her head when asked this question. I used to think so too, he says, but I'm afraid this is completely wrong. Your mind is actually the collective consciousness of every single cell in your body. He says, don't believe me? Well, let me prove it to you. Did you know that every cell in your body is innately intelligent and can survive on its own outside of your body? But inside your body, your cells shred their individuality to form a collective community of about 50 trillion cells. So your body is a system. It is 50 trillion cells. They get together and they form a community that works together. The functional units of life are your cells, and when they become organized into communities, they become you. According to one microbiologist at the University of Idaho, along with other estimates from scientific studies, there are actually 10 times more bacterial cells in your body than human cells. And these are over 500 species. There are over 500 species of bacteria living just in your gut. Further research has shown that a large majority of these beneficial bacteria actually help us to function in a healthy way. So there are 500 species of bacteria living in the gut by itself, and that some of them are beneficial and they help us to function in a healthy way. Deeper research from the scientists, part of the Human Genome Project that aimed to map out every human gene, shows that around 40 genes in the human body are actually of bacterial origin. So, really, you are a vast community of cells of both bacterial and human origin that all have a shared vision of being who you are. Then he brings in the experts. Dr. Bruce Lipton, Lipton, writes extensively about this in his book, The Biology of Perception, as he is one of the pioneer research scientists into the field of biology known as epigenetics. And Dr. Bruce Lipton says, by definition, a community is an organization of individuals committed to supporting a shared vision. Consequently, while every cell is a free living entity, the body's community accommodates the wishes and intents of its central voice, a character we perceive as both the mind and the spirit. When the mind perceives that the environment is safe and supportive, the cells are preoccupied with the growth and maintenance of the body. In stressful situations, cells forego their normal growth functions and adopt a defensive protection posture. The body's energy, resources normally used to sustain growth are diverted to systems that provide protection during periods of stress. Simply, growth processes are restricted or suspended in this stress system. While our systems can accommodate periods of acute brief stress, prolonged or chronic stress is debilitating, for its energy demands interfere with the required maintenance of the body and as a consequence leads to dysfunction and disease. The principal source of stress in the system's central voice, the mind. The mind is like the driver of a vehicle. With good driving skills, a vehicle can be maintained and provide good performance throughout its life. Bad driving skills generate most of the wrecks that litter the roadside or are stacked in junkyards. If we employ good driving skills in managing our behavior and dealing with our emotions, then we can anticipate a long, happy, and productive life. In contrast, inappropriate behaviors and dysfunctional emotional engagement, like a bad driver, stress the cellular vehicle, interfering with its performance and provoking a breakdown. That's what Dr. Bruce Lipton said. And then he goes to what is called the Vedic scriptures, the scriptures out of India. It says In ancient Vedic scriptures, there's a well-known saying which says, as above, so below. As above, so below. And he says, strangely, they knew way back then when these scriptures were written, the rules responsible for what happens on the deepest quantum level are exactly the same rules of physics, chemistry, and biology that control everything from the individual at a cellular level right through to the most complex organisms. A cell has its own version of the very same biological components that make up a whole person. Every cell has a digestive system, an excretory system, a respiratory system, a musculoskeletal system, an immune system, a reproductive system, and a cardiovascular system. A cell also interacts with other cells in its community via special signals, much in the same way we communicate with fellow members of our community through speech, language, art, and music. Just as we feel stifled and unable to perform optimally when we are forced into an environment that feels threatening or alien, cells react in a similar manner when subjected to unfavorable conditions. Cells will only thrive in the right environment, a healthy environment. And then he goes again and he talks about having been in an environment in corporate America where it was negative, alien, stress-inducing, that his immune system broke down. In other words, the car got sick, the body got sick, and he ended up with a life-threatening disease. And then when he left that environment, he was able to go through a process of healing wherein he got better. And then as he began to live that way, he became more successful, more happy, and indeed more wealthy. And so he began to understand, and that's how he came to actually write these particular items that we're working with now and why they are being shared with you. And that is the same experience that I have had as well. And he goes further. Knowing what I know now, I actually believe if he was back in the old job, he would have known how to live better and possibly even thrive in that environment. He was stressed back then because his mind perceived the environment in a particular way back then. And he says your beliefs and perceptions of life events can be changed by outside influences. These influences can go on to make dramatic changes in your life. Many self-healing miracles, great feats of endurance, and world records get broken all the time because individuals have changed their perception about a situation. And he lists the idea of the 4-minute mile. There was a period of time before Roger Bannister broke it in 1954. People thought it could never happen, but once he did it, once people understood that it could be done, they perceived that it could be done, then it started to be broken over and over and over and over again. And so people today, they perceive something like they perceive that they're getting sick, and then they get sicker, and as a result of that, they get still sicker still. And how does that happen? Well, sometimes a doctor comes and they tell an individual, like I've known individuals come to me with a doctor's report that said they have 6 months to live. And as a result of that, they begin to think, well, I have only 6 months to live. And of course, the thing is that that's the doctor's perception based on what they have looked at and the way they look at things. But I have also known individuals having come to me and we have a conversation, we have a change of mind that takes place, and those individuals having been given 6 months to live, when that conversation takes place, their minds are changed, their perceptions are changed, and they are able to actually live much longer. And I've known individuals who've lived an additional 30 and 40 years. So it can happen. And this is what happened to him as well. And he says he was miraculously healed. So he says, deep down inside, I knew this could not really be true, that he was going to die or something terrible was going to happen. But he still had to give in the world of burning passion to make music, and he wanted to help others. And he remembered coming to a forum, and there were people there who spoke about having recovered from chronic illness. And the more he learned about their stories, the more he understood about others who had had positive stories of recovery rather than the negative ones. And then he began to believe that he also could be healed. And that's what happened to him. That's why we are able to tell his story of the quantum healing that involved a shift in the fields of energy information so as to bring about correction in an idea that had gone wrong. And so this is what we're talking about. This is what we're referencing here in this particular presentation. Now let's talk about how that takes place. Let's talk first about the human brain. The human brain is quite a complex system consisting of many different interconnected parts working harmoniously together under the right circumstances. There are three areas of it. The first is the brain stem, then there is the limbic system, and then there's the neocortex. Taking them one at a time. First, the brain stem. It's responsible for the biological functions like eating, breathing, sleeping, sex, instinct, and reflexes. Then the limbic system, a set of brain functions primarily responsible for subconscious interpretation of stimuli from the five senses. And third, the neocortex, the primary center for your conscious cognitive control. The most important areas to consider are the limbic and neocortex because they are responsible for processing the energy or information from your five major senses. Research shows that these senses produce 11 million bits of information per second, which are all processed in the limbic system, but only 40 bits per second are passed on to the neocortex for conscious processing. That is, when you're thinking and you're planning. But get this now, 11 million bits per second, but you can only process 40 bits per second. So 99.9% of all information from your five senses is only subconsciously processed. The limbic system controls the experience and expression of emotions as well as the autonomic functions of the body. By producing emotions such as fear, anger, pleasure, sadness, the limbic system enables you to behave in ways that help you communicate and survive physical and psychological upset. So the limbic system, you get in 11 million bits of information. You can process only 40 bits of information at 1 second, in 1 second. The other is processed subconsciously, out of sight, if you will, really out of mind, if you will. And there's much debate whether your subconscious mind only resides in your brain. Your limbic system is closely connected to your entire nervous system and receives signals from every major cell in your body. This is now compelling evidence your subconscious mind is really part of a much greater collective consciousness of your entire body. Dr. Bruce Lipton speaks of the experiments that he's done that show the previously believed notion that DNA is the brain of the cell is actually wrong. It has since been proven that many people that actually the tiny cell membrane that surrounds the cell is the true brain of the cell. If you were to remove the DNA of the cell, surely it would die if it were the brain of the cell. Just as if you were to remove the brain from your body, you would die instantly. But in experiments, the cell would continue to function normally for many months. Could it also be true that what we perceive as the brain of our bodies that resides in our skull is also not entirely true? You must have heard the expressions, my gut instinct, or this one, sorry, but my heart just isn't in it. Why do so many people say these kinds of things? There's a person named Howard Martin of the now famous HeartMath Institute. And he says at HeartMath, we've spent the last 15 years diligently studying the heart, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Our researchers have been mapping the communication pathway between the heart, the brain, and the rest of the body while also studying the effects of positive emotions on health and performance. What we've learned is that the heart is the master controller in the human system. capable of sending powerful healing commands throughout the entire body. These signals from the heart have a dynamic impact on the nervous, hormonal, and immune system. They also influence brain function and have the ability to improve cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, psychological problems, and more. In essence, our old friend, the heart, may be the best healer of all. Our old friend, the heart. Think about that. This is all powerful. I want to encourage you to send us an email at innerjourney@spiritvictorypraise or svptli.com. innerjourney@svptli.com. And I want to send you this item because what we are speaking about is your body's ability to give you the power to use your alpha mind to get on the right frequency so that you are able to live your beautiful, handsome, authentic life. There is a strategy. There's a process. There's a way that this is done. As it is said that there are individuals who have done this, and in this particular item, there is mention of people who have actually been involved, and you have seen their actions previously. But listen, it mentions people who meditate regularly, professional athletes, artists, musicians, entrepreneurs. And one of the people that I saw recently that was on a program with Oprah was Phil Jackson. And he is one of the individuals that is mentioned in this particular item as well. And Phil Jackson was talking about exactly what is mentioned here, and that is meditation, and how he had the Chicago Bulls at one point in time actually meditating and doing things like what we're talking about here. Another person mentioned is Nikola Tesla, and how Nikola Tesla, who was perhaps the greatest inventor that the world has ever known, and how he was able to tap into his alpha mind, that alpha frequency. And we've talked about the conscious and the subconscious mind and this process by which they are running the body. This entire aspect of that there are basically 11 million bits of information that are coming to you every second. But your conscious mind is only able to actually process 40 bits of information. The rest of that information is processed subconsciously. And to process more of that information, then it becomes vital that your alpha mind is working for you. That's a different frequency than most people are normally on. And so this alpha mind, there are different states of the mind, different frequencies that the mind is on. And we have material that works with those states that help you to actually program your mind in such a way that you are on a particular frequency. Some of those frequencies, there are those at the frequency range of 40 hertz. Those are called the gamma rays. The gamma rays, G-A-M-M-A. They're the gamma rays. They are normally that you are able to, in that brain state, you're able to receive inspiration. You can do higher learning at that state. You can be focused at that state. That's 40 hertz that you can be used and be at the level of the gamma rays. And then there are the beta waves. That's from 13 to 40 hertz. That's beta, B-E-T-A. That's alertness and cognition and concentration. And it can be stress, but there's also good stress. So 13 to 40 hertz that we're working with, that's beta wave. waves. And then there is alpha waves, which what we are talking about here. That's 7 to 13 hertz. And alpha waves, that's relaxed alertness, peak performance, visualization, creativity, inspiration, no stress. Let's do that again. Relaxed alertness, peak performance, visualization, creativity, inspiration, no stress. We have that goes with our class that we're working with, these kinds of resources that are available for you, so that you are able to get into this space, into this place, and work with this. And then finally, there are the theta waves. They are 4 to 7 hertz, and they are for deep meditation, hypnosis, intuition, lucid dreaming. They are for dreams, of course. So 4 to 7 hertz, those are the theta waves. And then there are that which is less than 4 hertz, that's the delta. That's for healing. That's deep sleep, detached awareness, out-of-body experiences. So these are the waves. And what we're talking about in regard to what we are presenting to you now is the alpha waves. It's relaxed alertness, peak performance, visualization, creativity, inspiration without stress. And so we are encouraging you to send us an email at inner journey at S as in Sam, V as in Victory, P as in Paul, T as in Tom, L as in Lincoln, I as in India.com. Inner journey at svptli.com, and put in the subject line that you want to unlock the power of your alpha mind to live your beautiful, authentic life. You want to put in the subject line, unlocking the power of your alpha mind. You may just put up just that, unlocking the power of your alpha mind. And we want to get this out to you. There's no cost. You will be sent an email confirming that this is your desire to receive it, and we will get this out to you. And then we'll tell you about some of the resources that we have available for you so that you are able to work with this and get this to work for you, so that you are able to unlock the power of your alpha mind so that you can live your dreams, what you have in mind, what you want to do, what you have been impressed is your beautiful 4D life, your authentic life. And so I bless you. We look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye-bye.